This episode of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Gohan from Dragon Ball Super, and you are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. Excuse me, Gohan, this is more of a narrator type thing. Okay. Just do it more like a, next time on Talk Time Live. Next time on Talk Time Live. Don't quit your day job, Gohan.
This week we have news on the latest indie games coming to the Nintendo Switch. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 returns with another massive free expansion pack coming soon. I continue to play through Marvel Avengers Beta, and in our final stage review, I take a look at the first episode of Netflix High Score docuseries on video games and talk about why the African American community should be pissed. All this and more as ACMG presents Talk Time Live Extra Select Start.
Welcome to the show that gives you all the news, views, and opinions in the world of gaming. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live Extras Select Start with your host, Xavier Josiah. Power up and game on.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Select Start. I am your host Xavier Josiah. Hope everybody's having somewhat of a great week. Truth be told, I actually wasn't going to do a episode of Select Start this week because there wasn't that much information to talk about, or news to talk about, I should say. And lo and behold, there was. Some interesting news came up, and I figured I could talk about the Marvel Avengers Beta for this week, as it is available for everybody this week, so we'll be talking about that. But something came up majorly that I decided to do this, and I figured I had to. I was actually going to wait till next week to talk about this, but Netflix came out with their docuseries called High Score, which I highly recommend everybody check out. It's a 6-episode docuseries, and we're going to talk about this in our final stage review, by the way. But I just wanted to talk about it briefly here. And something sparked me about it that I felt it was warranted me to want to talk about it here. So we're going to cover the first episode of that show in our final stage review, and there's a reason, because out of all of what I saw, there was one thing that I saw that really pissed me off, and I will plead ignorance to this, and apparently upon my talking about this, there's a lot of people who didn't know about this. Who are not a part of the inner circle of gaming. There's the inner circle of gaming, which is usually the developers per se, and there's a certain minority of hardcore historians and such, but not enough what I've discovered in this documentary was astounding and alarming and upsetting. For a lot of reasons, but we'll get down to that. And I'm saying this as a black man, or as a black person in the black community, I was highly emotional and pissed by this discovery, and why this hasn't been heavily talked about more. But we'll talk about it in our final stage reviews. But we have some news to talk about. Of course, the Nintendo Indies World presentation came out this week, and this was at the time the only big news that we had at the time. And to me, I just felt like it just wasn't enough to talk about, because as much as I love the Nintendo Direct presentations, the video presentations that they do, the Indie World presentations sometimes can be lukewarm, I should say, in a sense, as far as, newsworthy things to talk about. So to me, it's a side dish of information in comparison to a lot of other things that we talk about. But luckily, because I waited for so long, a lot of other great news came out this week that we're going to talk about. So let's get down to it. Let's talk about the Indie World's presentation and what I thought about it. Hosted by two voices, Arika and Tyler. They never showed their face. They were just narrating, voiceovering at this point. So a lot of interesting games that came out, and I do love the Indie World news. For one thing, is like Nintendo's major support of indie games from day one. Two, you always get to see some really intriguing and creative things. And when it comes to indie games, it's more about the art of the game rather than the business side of the game. And that's all I love about it. That's why I love, interviewing people in the in indie gaming industry, culture, I should say. It pretty much is a subculture in its own right. But we got to see some really intriguing ones. This was the better Indie World presentations that I've seen. For instance, Hades by Supergiant Games, who are the makers of Bastion, translator of those two award-winning games. They're coming out with another one. This is another dungeon crawling adventure game. This time it will feature cross-saving features as well. No real date as to when this is coming out, and they didn't really show any gameplay. They just had a awesome looking art style with the main character on there and such. I'm looking forward to it because I love Bastion. I loved and beat Bastion. I love Translator, although I will admit I never really beat Translator. But they were awesome games, and they did set a standard for that style of genre games. And I love Bastion because the narration all through the game was just awesome. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do next with this Hades game that's coming out this fall. So no date for that. And let me say, the other thing I like about the Nintendo Direct and the Indie World games is that not only do they have some surprises, but a lot of times they have games that will be announced to be available the day of the presentation. So we also got Hypnospace Outlaw, which is like a point-and-click game. It's coming out August 27th, which is next week. There is a demo available right now, so if you're interested in that, you could check that out on the eShop. Spiritfarer by Thunder Lotus, a magical 2D scrolling adventure. Your character leaves the fantasy world behind. This is the story I'm mentioning. So the story is your character leaves the fantasy world behind, but spends one last time with her imaginary friends before leaving them forever. This sounds like a coming-of-age story, and which is kind of an awesome thing. I think this would be a great game for kids to play when they have that situation where, because everybody, as a kid grew up with imaginary friends and you created your own world inside your mind. And there's a time when you're going to have to let it go. There's a time when reality sets in, and sometimes I wish we could stay in our imaginary worlds because of what's going on in the world right now. But lo and behold, this game is available now, so you're able to check it out and see how it goes from there. Garden Story by Pico Graham is coming out 2021. No real big information on that. Subnautica. And Subnautica 2 Below Zero by Unknown World Games. It's a first-person adventure game that takes you under the sea. It's coming 2021. Now, it's interesting because I don't know if this is a new game with two different games coming out, or this is a game that's already prior to. I didn't look that up, but it is coming. It's coming in 2021 on the Nintendo Switch, so definitely check it out. Takeshi and Hiroshi is a 2D side-scrolling RPG. You are a game developer creating a game that makes his brother happy. I thought this was cute, so I made it actually want to jump on this. This sounds like a really cute game with it. This is a narrative heavy based game, definitely. So I really like the way that they're going to be doing this game. I have to get in representation for my wife, who is from India, Raji, which is an ancient epic game created by India developer Nadi. It's starring a female adventurer with many powers and abilities. This is going to be interesting. They showed the presentation. I believe the CEO of her, she's stunning, by the way, I must say. And I love that this is a huge representation. India is actually in game developing, and this is awesome. I'm sure there probably have been other game developers. And the funny thing is, I remember, I don't know if it was the Game Awards, maybe a couple years ago that they had a focus on game development in India, and it was all female developing group. And I don't know if this is the same one, but it looks. It's possible that this is the same development company that they were doing. And this game looks awesome. I am looking forward to playing this. It's available now as a time console exclusive. There's a few time console exclusives that are on here in this game. So, which means that, for a time being, it's only going to be on the Nintendo Switch, and then it's going to be released on other games. I believe Final Fantasy VII Remake has that same deal with Sony as well. So eventually it will come on to the Xbox or whatever like that, whenever that'll come out. So Bear and Breakfast. That's a interesting game that's coming out in 2021. I can't give too much of a description of what that was. A Short Hike is a game that's available now, which is also a time console exclusive. Card Shark. I actually am intrigued by this one. This one is a card game. Basically, it's a period piece card game where you cheat your way out of danger during the French society and the French Revolution during that era. It's coming 2021. The presentation was headed off by the game developer himself, and he was also a card shark. He knew all the tricks of the trade, apparently. So that's going to be an interesting game. I like where that's going. So then we also have Torchlight 3, which is a top-down action RPG coming this fall. We got Manifold Garden, which is a puzzle game available now. We got Evergate by Stone Lantern Games, which is a 2D adventure game. You help Key in a journey through the mystic world while also controlling time in the use of the Soul Flame. Beautiful looking game, absolutely stunning looking game. A lot of great, shadowing and lighting in that features. Lots of puzzles in this game as well. So that is available now. You got Haven, which is coming out later this year. It's a 3D adventure. Looks awesome. And they ended the show with the Untitled Goose Game, which is hilarious. You got these two geese, I guess you could call it because it's plural, I guess. And correct me if I'm wrong. But you got these two goose that are just causing all types of havoc and trouble everywhere they go. It's funny as hell. I love where they were going with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing that game as well coming to. So that is all. I mean, the presentation wasn't bad. I really liked where they went with this. There was a lot of intriguing games coming out, but nothing really blow away. Nothing. I would say anything except for Raji. That may be something I am gonna get it eventually. But nothing like really boom, boom, boom. I gotta get it. Except I think the only thing that stuck out was Raji and the Card Shark game for me. So, but nonetheless, there was a lot of other great quality games. And if you're a third-person shooter or action RPG games, there's something for everybody. And that's what I love about the Indie World's demonstrations and presentations that they have. And just giving people a chance to shine. And I've seen no other game company do that, in the fashion that they do it. So this was the biggest surprise ever. Well, sort of, kind of, because I follow Bandai Namco on their Facebook page. So they do have a lot of updates. Some things are great, some things are funny. They do tease a lot of things that are upcoming. They show screenshots of things from time to time. A while back, a few months ago, they did show screenshots, and I recognized it immediately of the game Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And they tend to show screenshots of things that you've never seen before, and one in particular was the Supreme Kai of Time, which we never saw before, and it was a image of her which looks like in game form. Like, you get to see her in cutscenes on Dragon Ball Xenoverse before, but you never got a chance to play as her, and it just led us to see are they still doing updates for Xenoverse after it's been 4 years? So they're still doing updates on this game, and 2, are we actually going to be able to play as the Supreme Kai of Time? And in fact, that is exactly what it is, because Dragon Ball Xenoverse returns with a brand new massive expansion pack in celebration of Bandai Namco selling 6 million units of the game, they are gifting us with an expansion pack that is free. And this is huge. Dragon Ball Xenoverse, let me actually say that again. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 debuted in 2016, which was 4 years ago, and is considered arguably one of the best Dragon Ball games of all time. That's due to its fleshed out story, the audio, the English audio caster in there, and they're doing what they do best. The ability for you to create your own Akira Toriyama style character, and a large assortment of other play features such as the car battle game that they have in there, and additional stories outside of the main story mode that you get to play. So and just many ways to level up too as well in this game. So after 4 years, Bandai Namco is still fanning the fire to this game with an all-new expansion pack filled with more replay value for fans to enjoy. The creator and protector of time is stepping in. This time you get to play as Supreme Kai of Time in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and it's a free update which includes a new story mode, an extra mission they call it, but it's a story based around a tournament that the Supreme Kai of Time will be holding. And you already got me a tournament. I've already said many times I love tournament stories. There's tournament storylines are the best storylines ever, because it's an easy way to get to know characters better, to establish characters better, and to reach the end point, which is the championship, to become the champion. It's one of the easiest stories to ever do in anything. Whether it's pro wrestling, whether it is anime, and that's why I think Shonen Jump always does tournaments, competitions in every one of their franchises. If you look at Yu Yu Hakusho, they got the Dark Tournament Saga there. You watch Dragon Ball, they got tons of tournament sagas, even the Tournament of Power that they recently did. My Hero Academia, Naruto, all of them. The Chunin exam from Naruto, they always do some type of competitional story that always establishes characters. It really helps with story development of a particular character. And if you ever wonder why you loved a character mostly on a particular Shonen Jump manga or manga or anime, it's because they usually establish them through the tournament modes. The tournament storylines, and it always works. It absolutely, some of the best characters you probably remember because of their interaction in a certain tournament. So just think about that for a minute. But that you'll get an extra mission from here. You get 15 CC mascots, which is a new feature that they have. So they got like Puar or what is that? Omni King, I believe, is going to be on. Like, you got all these mascot characters that are going to hang with you as you go around the time world that you're in, and they get to hang around you, and they get to do some really cool stuff around you. It's a really cool thing. So you get 15 CC mascots that are now going to be hanging around with you everywhere you go, everywhere your avatar character goes. You got 10 partner customizations. You got 50 Coliseum figurines for the car battle game that they have in there. You got 9 new techniques. You got 3 new raid events. You got 3 new costumes and accessories. You have 13 new Super Souls. All of this is coming at one new package, and it's coming, I believe, next week. It will be available next week. It's awesome. Of course, it's available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. So this is an awesome thing. I love Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and I always have a hard time trying to figure out between Xenoverse or Fighters as my favorite Dragon Ball game. They're both equally great. I can tell you this, I like those two way better than I do Kakarot. Kakarot was fun, but it didn't have the impact that the other two. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that they had an original story mode. Plus, there's a lot more action. In comparison, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a bit repetitive in his gameplay. And I get what they were trying to do with that, but at the end of the day, it didn't. And then furthermore, the DLC expanded story was really, it was not impressive at all. I I was not impressed at all. In fact, when I reviewed it last time, if I'm correct, I think it got like a B- or a C, if I'm correct, because it was short and unimpressive. It just didn't do anything for me. So hopefully the other expansion pack for that game will be better, but it can't be compared to what they're doing with this. This is awesome. Also, I should note, I didn't put this on my notes, but Master Roshi is coming. Speaking of Dragon Ball FighterZ, he's going to be the newest character available on for Dragon Ball FighterZ. So they credit to Bandai Namco. They are working heavily on the new content. I should also say that My Hero Academia has their new character as well. Forgot her name, but she is the mechanic that works on all of the costumes that the heroes have on My Hero Academia. I played her, wasn't too impressed with her. She's kind of she's nerfed before they even had her. She can't beat everybody in the game, so very oddly weird on how to handle her in that game. And I forgot her name, forgive me for that. But she is available on air too, on My Hero Academia. So Bandai Namco, to their credit, have been working extremely hard. And not only that, Captain Tsubasa, Rise of the Champions, is coming out next week. And I will absolutely be, I can't wait to play that game, because that's going to be the follow-up to Marvel Avengers. That will be officially coming out on the 4th, but I believe I'll be able to play it on the 2nd. So I am so looking forward to that game and everything. Speaking of that, the last thing I do have to talk about is the Marvel Avengers beta update. So I got a chance to play it yesterday, and it does play better than it has before. They managed to fix a lot of things that was going on with the original. They some of the updates for 1.5.0 in the beta was fixed rare issues, players losing certain gear, additional matchmaking improvements, rare crashes and fixes. They also moved enable matchmaker prompt to occur after the war table is unlocked. Now, interesting, I never had these. I didn't detect these issues myself. Some people have. But they also added a link to first party store to the main menu as well. So a lot of that was been added. I did feel at this time around there were better balancing to certain characters. Iron Man was much better playable this time around. I really enjoyed the way I got to play as him this time around. So I thought it was awesome. I thought it was awesome, the game, because before, when after you played the game, they ask you to rate it, and some of the stages that I played was a little bit too hard, and then some of the characters felt like unbalanced. My favorite characters to play was Miss Marvel at the time, and followed by Black Widow. I thought their moveset was a lot more balanced to play, and I was able to get through a lot better stages with those two. I do like the way you're able to swing like Spider-Man with both of those characters, by the way, especially Miss Marvel, how she's able to stretch out and swing to different areas. So I thought that was pretty cool. But otherwise, the other characters, Hawk was big but bulky, and it didn't feel, even though he was bulky, he was still a lot, hard to really maneuver around to some cases. Iron Man 2, I felt like he was a little bit harder to balance, but this week, much better balance. I had a better experience using him in the game, and Hawk as well. So I did rate those a 5 this time around. So it's getting better, and it looks like they're at the point that it's going to come out. I can't speak on the full game, but the thing is that I never had to play a beta of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I never had to play a beta of Spider-Man for the PS4, the Insomniac game version of this. So it's going to be interesting, because now that I get an early checkout of this game, as opposed to I had a hunch that both of those games was going to be awesome, so I didn't need to play a beta. But it's going to be interesting to see because right now I'm feeling like this is not going to be an Arkham. This is not going to be like an Arkham level. This is not going to be Spider-Man level. It's going to be interesting to see where this lies within the realm of recent comic book inspired games, or in particular Marvel games as well. So, but nonetheless, it's getting better. It looks phenomenal. It is a lot better balancing, and the camera's much better to control this time around. So we'll see. It's coming. We got about a couple more weeks, at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days for those who actually are pre-ordered, and 13 for those who did not, for who's going to get it day one. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be heavily on it. The story looks awesome. They haven't revealed all of the voice actors that are on here, but I swear to goodness, I hear Fred Tatasciore in here somewhere. So we will see. But nonetheless, so far so good with the game, and it's coming out very soon, so get ready. Folks, that will do it for this portion of the show. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk about the first episode of Netflix's new docuseries, High Score. And there's a lot to talk about there, especially if you are an aspiring black game developer. We'll talk about that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
All right, folks, we are back with our final stage review, and it is my review of High Score, the first episode of High Score, Netflix's new docuseries covering the history of video games. And if you're a gamer, I definitely recommend you check this series out. I've only got a chance to see the first episode, but this episode was nothing short of polarizing, in my opinion. There was a lot to cover in here. I thought they did a great job, and they produced it in such an awesome way. They had a lot of visual effects and CGI effects going along with it to give it that dramatic feel. So I love what they did with that, but they also did something that I have not seen ever. Of all the years that I've watched documentaries, whether on Netflix, whether it was on G4, articles that I've read, I've never heard of the name of Jerry Lawson, and we will talk about that thoroughly down as we get to that point. And trust me, I'm going to warn you guys now, I may be doing a little bit of ranting on this, because upon my discovery of this, I was very emotionally upset by a lot of things. In particular, I praise Netflix, but I am kind of mad at Netflix as well for not covering this a little bit further. But we're going to get down to it. We're definitely going to get down to it and talk about it here. So let's start. They start with the Atari debacle. That's how it starts off, and they get down to it and talking about that situation with Howard Scott Warhol and his situation here. So that's going to be the top subject of this game, but it really covers the start of everything. Episode 1 is entitled Boom and Bust, and basically talking about the boom period of video games to the bust, which was him. So they cover all this, but in the middle of all this, a little trinket of this, they talk about one huge aspect that they kind of mentioned but didn't gloss over it, to talk about his situation here as well. So they start off talking about some really cool stuff like Tomohiro Nishikado, who is the creator of Space Invaders, and credits his vision of the game based on H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And you can easily see that. If you know what War of the Worlds is, it's one of the most epic books you could ever talk about. And they even made a radio show about it ages ago, which was done by Orson Welles. If you're a Transformers fan, you know him as Unicron. But this man was responsible for scaring the hell out of America, because they made a radio show with him talking about, it was a fictitious radio news show talking about aliens were were invading the world. And people thought it was, this is how it was back then. People thought it was real. And in fact, it was just a radio show talking about this book. It was hilarious when you think about it. But it will never be imitated. That's something we are way more intelligent than that. And the only way they could do that is, I think they could do that again, but it had to be to a whole nother level, and it would cost millions for them to try to convince us that is real. But the game Space Invaders was so popular that arcades were known at the time as Vader houses, which I never knew. Was very interesting. Reports of the game being so popular that there were a coin shortage in Japan. Awesome accomplishment on his behalf. He also shows his illustration book that he still has to this day with the original sketch concepts of the Space Invader designs that he was developing for. The game headed to the Atari 2600, and by the way, we're going to talk about that as well, as a bundle pack, and made huge sales worldwide. Then they segue over to somebody named Becky or Rebecca Heinemann, who in the 1980s, she won the Space Invaders Regional Championship. She talks about how video games found solace and peace when playing. A lot of us can empathize with that. She won her way to the finals in New York. So they talk about that briefly as well. They go on to talk about how important getting the high scores was in the 80s, which I to this day I love, because that was the only, back in the 80s, games didn't have endings. Games didn't have cinematic endings or narratives or whatever like that. It was just there was a very short narrative to a game, but the biggest thing that people stressed, what made you so popular in arcades, was getting the highest score. Guinness Book of World Records, because it was a book at the time, used to have the world's record for Pac-Man, for Donkey Kong, and we still have that to this day. But that, back in the 80s, the high score was the thing that made you popular. And I mean popular. Like, so popular, like you could actually get laid for getting the high score in Pac-Man or, Donkey Kong or whatever like that. Like, you were that famous. They made it a big deal about that. Now, it's not really that much of a big deal, because most games are narrative based, and they have it's all about ending the game and reaching to the end and learning and getting the cinematic treat of getting this massive produced theatrical ending to a game. There are the achievements and trophies now that they have, but I don't think they carry as much weight as they did in the 80s. I don't play to make achievements. I don't care about the achievements. There's no incentive for me to get an achievement. It's just bragging rights. It's not even bragging rights that'll get you anywhere. Like if we still had a scoring, if games went by a scoring system to this day, yeah, maybe. But now we have competitions where it's all about beating the person in Street Fighter, or beating the person in Overwatch or stuff like that. There are some other records to be broken now other than a high score. And let it be known that, like, the Space Invaders regional competition was like the first esport ever. That was like the original esport competition. It wasn't as elaborate as it was now. In fact, they explain in the documentary how it's not held in stadiums like it is now. It was held in malls, And I love that they showed all these glimpses of 80s malls and with the people wearing the 80s gear and all the stuff. This is, that wasn't just an episode of the Goldbergs. That was real life. The fashion, all of that. So, they talked about how the arcade era began, and they talked during that time, the video game industry was raking in about $5 billion even during that time. That's huge. That is an insanely huge amount of money. As far as, you talk about especially inflation today, that'd probably be a lot. It's definitely a lot more than it was. Then they cover the story of Doug McRae and Steve Golson, and I forgot there was a third guy that they spoke about too. These guys were MIT dropouts that brought arcade games to dorms and made money off it because they made so much money that they wound up paying tuition with it. They realized that they began to lose money because gamers were becoming so good at the arcade games. Arcades were starting to lose money as well. So what the two did was they created enhancement kits to create more of a challenge and additional things to games to bring in more money for arcades. So they alone are also, historical and revolutionary in their own rights for helping economically, in the gaming industry for that. So, kudos to them for that. And, to this day, it's like they've started with, I believe they said they started with Missile Command, to try to get that in and notice that people were beating Missile Command even more. They also mentioned that MIT was the perfect place for Missile Command because it helped, it assimilated to what they were doing as far as engineering and such for that. So they, a lot of students there like that a lot better as opposed to other games that they brought in like pinball and all that stuff back then. They sold these enhancement packs to arcade owners, resulting in $250,000 a year. Or was it a month? I think it might have been a month, actually. So, I mean, yeah, that warranted them to, say, we don't need school at this point. They already know what they're doing. They already making a profit off of what they're doing. So, there you have it. They decided to create their own company as a result of that as well and focus on making another enhancement kit for Pac-Man. But they needed the permission. So this is when the documentary then segues over to Pac-Man creator Toru Iwatani, legendary in his own right. He created Pac-Man, one of the most iconic characters in the industry. I have his amiibo in my office right here to tell you right there. But he talks about how he created the game, which is well documented. I think there are way more gamers out there that know about his legacy than anybody in this documentary so far. Doug McRae and Steve Golson is I consider like insider. Like we didn't know about these guys until what they've done. Maybe a few. There's levels of the gaming industry and of the game community that would know certain people. I highly believe that they know about Toru Iwatani more than these guys and more than the other people I'm going to mention as well. And as well as Becky Hyman as well. He talks about how he created it through, the slice of pizza. That's, that history is is documented. It's almost as like Stan Lee creating Spider-Man or Fantastic Four in this case. It's up in that level. They also talked about the overwhelming popularity of Pac-Man, resulting in his own theme song, Pac-Man Fever, which I used to have the record of that back in the day, as well as endorsements from Coke and his own Saturday morning cartoon, which I absolutely love. And by the way, the Pac-Man Saturday morning cartoon that we all loved that led to the Pac-Land video game in the arcades, that cartoon is available on Apple TV. You can buy that series on air, and I actually may do that and look back at that as well. I used to love it. Was one of the only video game cartoons out at the time, before Space Ace and before Dragon Lair came out, I think, later on, and then they started doing Captain N and all the stuff. But Pac-Man was the deal, and that's how you knew how big of a deal that character was. So then they go to Norman Bushnell, who another figure in the gaming industry that a lot of people know about. The godfather of video games is what he's normally considered. He comes to talk about how he created Atari. Now, this is interesting. This is where it gets interesting here. He created Atari. That's awesome. Well known. And the crazy stories behind, if there are documentaries out there, in particular, one of the most famous documentaries that came out a few years back, which talks about Atari and everything that they've done, like, which is like Wolf of Wall Street worthy in a sense of how crazy they were doing, you know, the crazy things that they were doing and how they were conducting business with employees, you know, the cocaine stories, all that stuff. It's almost Wolf of Wall Street worthy in a sense. But, you know, Atari sold the company, how he sold the company to Warner Communications, how they sued Doug and Steve for $5 million, claiming that they stole the idea, their enhancement kit idea, via copyright infringement. And I don't know how that came about, but okay. Atari also settled the suit and offered them to hire them. Because when you're settling, what does that tell you? What does that tell you about Atari? Atari is after listening and learning about Atari, it almost reminds me of, all right, I shouldn't compare them to WWE in a sense of how they conduct business, because to Vince McMahon's credit, there's not many people running around, you know, doing what they did. These guys went balls to the wall crazy. Vince McMahon is a little bit more conservative, but he's still not out of the ballpark of, you know, total innocence in what he's done in his company. But as far as when it comes to like trying to sue somebody for certain things that he's trying to gain power and control in, and you're using your money and your power to get to, that's where I would compare them to in this case. So they tried to sue them for $5 million. It somehow settled into them working for them. And, you know, which was crazy. Doug and Steve wanted to make the Atari version of Pac-Man, but needed the permission of Itawani in order to do it. So, because it was owned by Midway Games, somehow they were able to do that, but they created Miss Pac-Man in the midst of all this instead. So there's that. Then the documentary goes back to the Space Invader National Championships where Rebecca wins. So they covered that part as well. And, you know, that was a great story. That was an absolutely great story on that note right there. But then we get this, it had to be no more than less than 5 minutes. Even, I would dare say 4 minutes of Jerry Lawson. Somebody I did not know about. And lo and behold, a majority of people did not know about. There's a lot of people. There are people who knew about him, but it's in the inner circle of the game and development industry. And this, look, I'm a big game fan. I'm not a game historian. I am a gaming fan. And most gaming fans only know why they love video games, but they don't know the history of it. And if you're a black man or a black kid, or a black gamer in general, because, you know, there are female, gamers who are black as well, and you just love the games, you know about Capcom, you know about Atari, you know about Bandai Namco, you know about Sega, you know about Microsoft, you know about all of these people, you know who Cliffy B is, you know who, Howard Scott Warshaw is, you know some of the people in the industry, but you didn't dig deep enough. And I'm not afraid to, I plead my ignorance. I did not know about Jerry Lawson. But come to find out, a lot of other people didn't. In particular, a lot of people in our industry, in our community, I should say, did not know about Jerry Lawson. Jerry Lawson is talked about within the inner circles of the gaming industry. Jerry Lawson is not talked about by Sonic Fox or, I was going to say CM Punk. I forgot the dude's name. PM Punk, the champion from Philly. He's not talked about because I don't think they even know. I think if they would have known, I think they would have talked about him further, especially Sonic Fox, because he is both black and gay, and I would assume that he would definitely talk about and represent not only both the LGBTQ community, but also, the black community as well. But I have reason to believe that he possibly doesn't know about it. And if he did, shame on him for not mentioning it. But Jerry Lawson is a black developer who lived in the Silicon Valley, who created a game console called Channel F, which is in fact the very first game console ever in 1976. He created the technology. Get this. And why I'm pissed off about this. He created the technology that allowed interchangeable cartridges to play in a game console. That concept, it took him 6 to 8 months to create. That concept, that technology is being used today. It's being used from Atari. It's being used in ColecoVision, in television, Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega, 3DO, TurboGrafx, you name it, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and soon 5, Xbox. That technology was developed by a black man named named Jerry Lawson. Forgive me. Why are we just now finding this out in 2020? Why is this just now being spoke about in 2020 in the fashion that is did? I've watched so many documentaries, and apparently I might have not have watched enough. I've read books. I had Chris Milicinas and on this show at some point, and I gotta go back and see if he actually wrote about him on here. I don't. I've been to the Art of Video Game exhibit. I don't remember seeing that console on there. I gotta look back. I believe I do still have my pictures of that event, but I gotta look back. I gotta check on that. But I digress. I have never heard of Jerry Lawson, not once, and I've watched a ton. I watched G4 back in the day. I talked about how much I love their documentaries. I don't recall ever seeing anything about Jerry Lawson. Ever. I went on to my Facebook group, did a 5-minute emotional breakdown about this guy. People were commenting, didn't know about him. Some people actually did. Some people were ashamed that they did and didn't, shout him out even more. We'll actually talk about some of the comments on that on our ACMG Facebook group in a minute. I think I'm giving more time than I had on that Netflix documentary about this. But upon this discovery, Atari took the idea and eclipsed them, again, using their power and money, to work on creating the Atari 2600. Not recognizing any work he put into it. We never got a chance to see what would have happened with the Channel F console. He is survived by his son Anderson and his daughter Karen, who appeared in a documentary because in 2011 he passed away due to diabetes. Another thing that is killing our community. I can't say enough about how upset I was that another black man in history, another black historian, has created something so major that is making billions of dollars for a community, for a industry, and it's just been glossed over. And I appreciate that Netflix has brought that. I had this conversation with my wife, and we can't deny they brought it up, they mentioned it, they called him the unsung hero. It is absolutely correct. But what is unfair is just how much coverage that he should have gotten in this, because his idea to this day is making billions, including even the digital distribution portion of it. The idea and concept that we are able to have different interchangeable cartridges and be able to build on a library of games, which helps economically the gaming industry, because back then we only had Pong. I actually owned a Pong game. I was a kid back then. My family owned a Pong game series. So you had one game. You had this little analog, joystick, and all you had to do was turn from UHF to that, and that's all we had. There was no interchangeable games at the time. Otherwise, you would have to go to the arcades to play different games. And there, it wasn't until he created Channel F and was able to have interchangeable cartridges, but we never knew about it. Majority of us never knew about it. And it's upsetting because we are living in a world right now, in a country, I should say, that is built on racism, is built on systemic racism, and it is built on the idea that, you know, we don't contribute in value to this world. That the value that we do have, it's being stifled. And this is another thing. I mean, many people talk about what Elvis has done. You know, Elvis is supposed to be the king of rock and roll, when in fact that his ideas came from the music of black musicians. He took it, had a better production, had all the things that he needed, all the tools that he needed to in advertisement and promotion to make it seem like he was the one. This is another one. Do you know this is huge? He should be celebrated way bigger than what has been said, than just that little 5-minute segment, less than 5 minute segment, or anything. And I heard that, you know, from this point that he actually had, you know, there are like dedicated grants and sponsorships, but that's within the realm of the developers. No, this man needs a documentary of his own. This man needs a movie of his own. I should not have, and other people should not have just learned about him. This is inexcusable. This is one of the things that we are fighting for right now. I've been fighting for my own value for years. And it has brought great strain doing so. But with it also has brought great rewards and value, because I would not stop, and I am never stopping to do so. And it's really unbelievable. It's really, really unbelievable how this has happened. How I'm just now learning about it, but also other people. Like I said, I went onto the ACMG Facebook group, found out about him, and people are learning about him for the first time. And then so far, 2 people have come and said that they have, well, one in particular had admitted, because he's a game developer himself, he's a black game developer himself, that he knew about it, but felt bad that he didn't also, you know, bring the praises. This man, it's not like he created a game engine. It's not like he created a video game that was iconic. He created the foundation of what we are playing today and how we are playing. That should not be glossed over. This is what we're fighting for, and this is why, and I hate to transition this and segue this into a political type of situation, but this is why we as black Americans, as African Americans, as the youth of America, needs to vote. Because if you want to fight for equality, this is one of the reasons why we should fight for equality, and why people like Jerry Lawson should not be glossed over for their contributions. It's a damn shame. I mean, this made me think a lot, and one of the things that I'm thinking about is like trying to find up and coming black developers, and I actually do have a few that is coming up, but just more inspiring people come up. We had Jeffrey Thorne in here. We had a few other people in here that has, you know, made it in, but I'm more intrigued to make sure that I think it's our responsibility to try to bring more attention to up and coming black developers and not even just black developers, but people of color as well. Because we need to be represented way better than we are right now. So we got a chance to talk, which this was the most polarizing thing to me. I saw this, and I'm not joking, I burst out and cried. Because not only for the fact that I didn't know who this guy is, but what he's done to the industry and how he didn't get his just due. I watch the Game Awards every year. Love the Game Awards. Love what Jeff Keighley did. But why in the hell did we not talk about why? Why is there not an award? Why is there not a Lifetime Achievement Award? Why? This dude didn't just create a game. He didn't just create a game engine. He created the way we play games today. His technology, his idea, his schematics, everything is the reason, his patent, okay, is the reason why all these companies are making millions to billions. All owe it to Jerry Lawson. And we're made to look out like we don't show value, or to this day, I've been talking about how IGN and all these other people don't bring representation in. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? We're made to feel like we can't work in places like this. We made to feel like only thing we could do is play these games and enjoy these games, or we can compete in the esport games or whatever. We're not made to feel like we can be a part of this. I watched the Sony presentation just a while back during the E3 season that we were supposed to have. And I watched that video and I just saw 2 black people in that industry that were developers or whatever. And then all of them was predominantly white. Some of them were Asian. It was just, it astounded me. But lo and behold, just one guy that is responsible for creating the jobs, the opportunities, and the money that everybody's making today. It's Jerry Lawson. This is a travesty. I don't know what I can do or what I need to do. I will try my best to get his name out there as best I can. And if you're listening to this day, you owe Jerry Lawson a thanks if you love everything about gaming. Because yes, a black man created the way we play games today. And I'll just leave it in that for now. It's not the end. Trust me. After talking about this segment with him, they reach on fully to talk about Howard Scott Warshaw, who created Yar's Revenge, great game at the time, and the infamous E.T. game, and that led to the downfall of the industry. And this is a story that we know well. This story has been told multiple times, so many times, how his games were so bad that they put that, and they manufactured so many games that ended up in a landfill and stuff like that. And you know, they did a documentary on them even getting that that game from the landfill and finding them. And I actually saw one of the games in person, the actual cartridges in person at San Diego Comic-Con during a display. So yeah, it's heavily documented. It is a great form of gaming history, but damn. We've heard that already. We've heard about Cliffy B and the Unreal Engine. We heard about, the creators of Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and whatnot. We heard about, the creators of, Mario and Zelda and all this stuff. We know these are heavily names that we know. We talk about. We don't talk about Jerry Lawson enough. So overall, the episode is... The first episode was awesome. I will give full credit. If I give any credit, this was an absolutely great documentary. It was done in a way that I've never seen game documentaries done before. The way that they put it together was awesome. It was well filmed. And they covered the Jerry Lawson segment. I think if it was on one negative I would give for this episode is the fact that they didn't cover, of course they got an hour to talk about these things, but the Jerry Lawson segment, I wanted it to be so much more. I hope somebody down the line realizes what this man has done and embrace it and expand it bigger, because it needs to be. It absolutely needs to be. It's a travesty that he's not is celebrated more. It's just sad. It's just another one of the things that we need to fix in our country here. But overall, if I'm giving a grade to the first episode, it's definitely going to be an A. I would give it an A+, but I wanted to learn more about Jerry Lawson as opposed to all the other people that I've already known about and heard about from other documentaries. But man, shout out to him, shout out to his family, and hopefully down the line I get more coverage on him as well. So we'll see. Folks, that is it. We actually had a show. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode and all of our episodes of Select Start and Talk Time in general. This Sunday, this is it. This is DC Fandom Week. So we're going to talk about all of the things that has happened during DC Fandom and see what happens from there. It's only going to be that. So these things usually are a lot to cover. So we're only going to be focusing on DC Fandom, all the information, all the new, news that we're going to get from there as well. So definitely there. And lo and behold, the other reason why I'm doing this so late is because I was supposed to have my exclusive with Josh Chernoff, who is the host of So Says Chernoff on Fight TV, and talking about his appearance on Retromania Wrestling coming soon. And that was delayed due to some technical difficulties that occurred during the recording of that. So we're going to try again tomorrow. Fios, for some reason, I'm an Xfinity, my provider is Xfinity. He has Fios, and apparently there has been some issues with Fios that has been messing up on certain disruptions with video quality and bandwidth quality. Because during the same day, I had a conference call via video with somebody else who had Fios. So we put two and two together, and I checked my side of things. I am running smoothly, hardwired based on everything. So we're going to try it again, see if we can get them back on. If not, we'll do an audio version only. And just try from there, because it might just be better. But I wanted to get him on video to talk about the show and talk about his new show with the Blue Meanie on Fight TV and other things that is going on. So that will be happening tomorrow. And then the DC Fandom will be Monday. So we're going to be extending everything going out. And we'll check it out for there. But all of our episodes will be up. You can check us out on TalkTimeLive.com, as well as all the exclusive interviews on TalkTimeLive.com/exclusive. If you want to subscribe and download to the show, you could do so on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, and TuneIn as well, and also Pocket Cast. So you can check us out there as well, and it might be Apple Music soon. I'm not sure. We'll check on that status as the time goes by. But you have a lot of places to check out the show. So thank you guys again. So that'll do it. On behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Take care and be safe, everybody. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.